I'm Kevin Lopez. I'm the sales strategy lead for Azure Networking and CDN, and I'm joined today by my esteemed colleague, Daniel.
Thanks. I'm Daniel Gickelhorn. I'm the product lead for Azure CDN and Azure Front Door Services in Azure Networking.
Perfect. So today we're going to talk to you first about Azure Front Door. So if you remember from the intro video, we talked about our 4 pillars. They connect, protect, monitor, and deliver. So Front Door is going to fall within our deliver model, and our deliver pillar rather. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that, where it fits in, and all the considerations you should think about when thinking about Azure Front Door. So Daniel, go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. So today I'm going to talk about really how Azure Front Door, it's not actually a new service for us, but it's recently GA'd, and how that really fits into, as Kevin said, our sort of deliver pillar and how we think about application connectivity or application performance and routing and load balancing within that pillar. So to start, I'm going to talk about really our network and really how we think about networking and building applications on Azure. From a basic standpoint, we're looking at, like, Microsoft has the second largest network on the planet, and we have that network because it allows us to enable our cloud customers to build large-scale, globally distributed applications. It's the reason we have the most regions worldwide. It's the reason that we have a large part of, or I should say, a large bet of our own on that network for things like Office 365, Bing, and other services. Azure Front Door fits into our application delivery pillar as part of our intelligent edge strategy. It really is there to help large-scale web applications build a high-performance, high-availability, and high-security service globally. And in particular, it fits in with Azure CDN, basically in that sort of edge strategy for networking. I'll talk a little bit about how these things are similar and how these things are different, and really where you use those different tools. And I'm not going to cover today how they compare with the rest of the tools in our application delivery suite, but we'll also cover that in a subsequent video. So.
But you were going to go through it too, kind of as a customer, right? So looking at it from a customer perspective. Yeah, perfect.
So Azure CDN and Azure Front Door we have as 2 real, like, sort of separate services. They're separate because we really want to focus how we think about building applications with each of them. Azure CDN today we focus mostly on static scenarios, building like live video streams, simple applications, updating devices, things like that. Front Door is really built for dynamic application acceleration, global load balancing, protecting your web app. And then we consider sort of modern application architectures or building path-based applications. So if you're going to go build a large-scale application on Azure, you're doing it because you're looking to build something that is more robust and is really leveraging sort of the scale-out of Azure.
So like enterprise-grade type
correct.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah. And so Front Door really sits there and helps you build a high-performance service. It does that because it's sitting at the edge of our network and doing application acceleration. It works not just like traditionally you think of CDN as static caching and putting it at the edge. Yeah. Front Door sits there for dynamic applications with no caching, and it can still dramatically help performance, which I'll demonstrate in a little bit.
Cool.
It also is there, it terminates SSL, so in terms of SSL scale out, which is a common question, it also sits there and helps SSL scale out stories for customers. You can build modern high availability applications with it. Part of the reason why I say modern high availability apps is because high availability really is about how fast you fail over between regions and how robust you are to failures. Front Door, instead of like DNS or traffic manager, it's on the path. So it means it's monitoring the exact network path that the traffic is taking all the time. And so it's not, if there's some sort of infrastructure challenge on our side, if the app has some sort of like latency-based impact, like it's slowing down because it's overloaded, Front Door can actually fail around those sorts of issues instead of having to continue traffic, sort of errantly with that. It also fails over really fast, and it can do that not just at a domain level like www.microsoft.com, but it can do that at a path level. And so if you want to break out individual microservices and have them deployed asymmetrically or have them fail over independently, you can do that with Front Door.
Got it.
We also support global WAF at the edge, and so one of the biggest challenges we've had so far, and App Gateway has a great WAF product, but we've asked, how do I put WAF in front of PaaS? How do I, sort of think about WAF from a global scope and manage my policies? Front Door gives WAF at the edge, and so really it's a way to keep traffic, bad traffic that you're blocking with WAF,
Right.
not just off of your app, but actually off of like the whole network. And so like we can block traffic really at the edge, and we can do it globally instead of having to provision each region.
Just tell WAF.
WAF, Web Application Firewall.
Right. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Yeah.
And so like when we think about what are the scenarios, there's a large number of scenarios that come into really delivering or sort of thinking about application delivery. And really it goes into almost any vertical that you can think of. Some of the really key, like obvious scenarios are like if you're building a big e-commerce website,
Sure.
how do you deliver like that kind of, big e-commerce website competitively, performantly? How do you make sure that it's never down because time is money for those sorts of services? How do you handle like identity apps or line of business apps where there's real like transactional logins for them, and make those faster and highly resilient? Because for us at Microsoft,
Sure.
our internal apps are down, we're not very happy. How do you build things like customer portals that have those kind of logins to them, mobile devices? There's sort of an end-to-end thing that goes all the way through like IoT scenarios and stuff like that. But really it's anything that really wants to make their service or API faster, more highly available, and more secure.
Okay.
So,
excellent.
So one of the like early customers we had to onboarded to the platform was Electrolux, and really they came to Front Door because they're building a new type of IoT powered in-home devices. And those are super low power devices, and so connectivity and latency is really critical to them. And so they came to Front Door really looking for, hey, I need to have a really low latency API call, not even that complex like an e-commerce website, but really low latency API so that they can communicate to those devices. And because they're over the air, last mile congestion, so performance is really super critical for them.
Sure.
One of the things that they really came to us and really they were just astonished with onboarding was really that it took them about 10 minutes to actually set Front Door up for their app. It was
to get it going?
To get it going for their app. We helped them with a little bit of tuning after that, but beyond that, they really didn't have a lot of overhead in terms of setting it up.
Wow. So they came for design, kind of went through some of that, and then to get started, they were able to build it up and get it going in about 10 minutes.
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
And it's a super easy to use and deploy product. Our sort of canonical simple use case is how do you speed up a PaaS app?
Oh, okay.
How do you really speed up an application that has a public endpoint? Front Door can only hit public endpoints, and really take a multi-region deployment and say, I want a high availability, higher performance application. It's very simple. I'm actually going to show a little bit right now. So setting up Front Door is, we make a very simple workflow to do that. It starts with a set of front-end hosts, which is basically the domain. You can think of this as, I have globalcloudapp.net, but electrolux.com or api.electrolux.com. You set up a set of backend pools, which is very similar to setting up Traffic Manager. There's a set of backends that you're routing to. And that's what you're going to load balance across. Front Door is going to continuously probe all those backends and find the closest one to each of our edge sites. And so a user sitting in the west coast of the US is going to go into one of the closest edge sites to them. It doesn't matter where the app is, it's going to come and stop there, and the load balancing decision is going to happen right at the edge. So, and then from that, you basically set up a set of routing rules, which is just a path-based map between those basically front-end hosts and the backends. And you can set up more complex rules and how you handle HTTP, HTTPS, redirects, all sorts of other details about how do you make your site really robust and really build your architecture with Front Door. But to get started, it's literally that simple. It's about 4 different configuration settings. You can leave almost all defaults.
And then get rolling and then tweak as you need.
Exactly. And that is really the philosophy with Front Door, is get started fast and then iterate. Just like with many modern sort of DevOps products. So like this is a site that I've put behind Front Door. It's very simple. It's just a sort of basic commerce app that has some logins. You can put this in front of front door. You can have multiple regions. You can have a static site to fail back to. You can basically build the concepts that you're looking for to build any kind of modern app.
Okay.
One of the things that we get asked a lot, front door is so great. It's you have this great product. It's easy to set up. How do I know that it's actually fast?
The proof. Yeah.
And really that is sort of the proof is in the pudding in terms of
Sure.
how much you can get. And there's a lot of detailed conversation around how performant is it? How do I get that performance? What do we think about in terms of TCP throttling? There's a lot of density into how that actually works. But really it comes down to we own our own private WAN. And it means that as soon as we get the traffic onto our WAN, we can accelerate it with known low congestion paths across the entire planet. So in this little demo, I'm going to show you, if I'm going to go to azurewebsites.net, I mean, we're in Redmond, this is in Chicago. If you go directly to there, I'm going to pull a 100K object. It's going to start pulling it. It's going to start pulling. There it goes. I'll let that get a head start. On the right, I'm pulling it from basically from Chicago directly. On the left, I'm pulling it from front door, which is a little bit slower for me to get started. But as you'll see as it warms up these connections, I've left this actually cold. We're hitting our local edge pop here in Seattle. And it's starting to get faster times as it's hitting warm connections on the back end. And really it is one of those things that this is a 100K object. An average website's about 2.5 megs. Yeah. And so we saved here 40% of the time, so 250-ish milliseconds, 220-ish milliseconds.
I felt like it was one of those races when you had a baseball game or something, and you see the peanuts going across.
Yeah, and so for a little small 100K object like this, you're saving 200 milliseconds.
Yeah.
For a larger web page, it could be seconds.
Okay,
so,
all right.
And so that benefit of really doing that kind of acceleration at the edge is sort of the critical core value, and then we add on HA and things like that, which are really things that are there to build. If you're really thinking about performance, you've gotten to the point with your application that you're thinking about high availability and all those other sort of dimensions of the problem.
Okay.
So.
And a customer could run the same test if they wanted to?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody can run it from anywhere. These endpoints are public.
Yeah.
So we've empowered quite a bit of folks to go talk to folks about how to do this. So, so another thing to really look at, and this is one of the things that we really pride ourselves on, is that this is a competency that we've been building at Microsoft because we've been building enterprise services for years. Front Door is actually not a new product. It's been around for about 5 years. Right now, if you're using any of the Office 365 products, Skype, Teams, Bing, MSN, any of our big brand names, they're already running on Front Door to get these same benefits.
Interesting.
And one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is this global network, which is a competency that we've been building for the last 20 years that Amazon, I would say, is new to. And so one of the things we really look at is how we compare ourselves publicly. And so we have public benchmarks, and we compare ourselves in terms of this is not just to the edge, but through the edge, to regions. How fast are we compared to AWS? And this is a completely neutral test with a neutral entity and things like that. And we consistently beat the pants off them. So we're going to continue to.
Well, and a lot of people don't realize the size. So I'm happy that you showed the size of the Microsoft network up front.
Yeah.
And when we talk about it, I like to talk about how it's enterprise grade, right? Yep. It's really built for business, and it's not just kind of like hey, this is just what we threw together. This is really kind of thought through, you say, over the last 20 plus years, right? Yep. On how we're going to build this network. Yeah,
and it is something that this is the first time we've made really those capabilities public. Yeah. So, so one of the other scenarios that we get asked about a lot, and really we have a lot of customers that are really looking for, how do I get global WAF? Right. How do I get global web application firewall? How do I have policies that I can set a policy and it applies everywhere all at once? It's really fast to set up on top of Front Door. It's really simple to do it centrally, and so if one of the big key scenarios that we get is, so if I'm an ISV or if I'm team building a cloud platform
Mm-hmm.
within a larger organization. How do I do that in a way that's templatable and
Right,
simple and enforces the right policies and
Yeah.
I can enforce it?
Standardization kind of thing.
Yeah. This lets you do it because it's applying it, one, globally, so it's not like a per region config. There's no outliers that you can get. And second is that we've actually exposed this now as a centralized service. And so you can actually go apply that same policy. You can develop your WAF policy and apply it to multiple front doors. So every time you create a new website, you can say, hey, and apply this WAF policy.
Okay.
So we have all the sort of standard things, and really this really comes down to best practice: rate limiting, customizable filtering, ACLing. So if you have branch offices that you want to put IP ACLs and restrictions on, you can do that.
Okay. So
it's really simple to set up, just like front door. It takes about 10 minutes to kind of get your feet wet and understand how to turn it on. Our recommendation to most folks is that sort of the best practice baseline for a modern application is OWASP, which is a collection of protection, like it's a suite of different protection rules that are pre-prescribed by demand. We suggest folks just turn that on and try it out, and then add custom rules as they need them. So the other big thing that we get a lot of questions about is, how do I migrate my service to cloud? All right, I have a web app that I have on-prem right now.
Migrations is huge.
Or for us, someone has a web app at Amazon. How do I then get that thing into Azure safely and consistently? One of the big challenges with that today is that most of the prescribed patterns for this is that, you have to just take a bet on DNS and things. But the problem with that is that every time you do that, you have a point of instability where you're changing IP addresses and things like that. Putting everything behind front door means that the customer or your end user continues to get the same consistent IP address while the migration is happening. And so a lot of the challenges that happen with that go away. In many cases we see, and this is a good example for LinkedIn, we welcomed to the Microsoft family a while ago. They are currently being welcomed to the Azure ecosystem. They're part of their cloud journey has really come through how do they put front door and use that to migrate. Part of the real key for them is that they're a large scale production service, and so a failure is bad, and so front door actually allows them to fail out of new architecture really quickly. And so they can take a bet on part of their app. They can move their search stack into Azure first, and they don't have to move the whole app. Most of it can still be on-prem, but they can do linkedin.com/search is in Azure. The rest of it's still on-prem. And so it allows them to both incrementally move small pieces, as well as, because front door is a load balancer and constantly monitoring, it can move traffic away in like 10 seconds. And so if there's some sort of catastrophic problem or they make a mistake, they can move traffic away.
So it's not an all or nothing kind of thing.
It allows a migration to become incremental.
Okay.
So, and so that's really, those kind of are sort of the top level scenarios. It comes down to a really core structural question about building high availability, high performance websites. And really it is front door helps get connectivity and performance down to physics instead of all of the protocol overhead and architecture and things that you build into a modern website. And so it's super easy to onboard. Everything's API driven and DevOps focused. It allows customers to really centralize their WAF stack, their configuration. It has centralized telemetry and logging. You can use it for dial tone monitoring, but there's a lot that you can build onto it once you have something in front of your app. And really, the last sort of value is really when it comes down to cloud migration. It can reduce the risk in a cloud migration.
You don't have to go all in.
It makes it two steps. So you have to take a bet on front door. But then your incremental app build is more progressive after.
So as a customer, I could look up a lot of the details, get information just on the Azure.com site?
Yep.
Okay. All right, perfect. Any closing remarks?
No, I mean, my recommendation to everybody is go try out front door. It's actually unique in that kind where usually you have to go sign a big contract and things to try it out. Front door, you can go use basically the same infrastructure that we're using for Office and all of our big services. You can go use it with a credit card. You can go basically just provision it like a VM in Azure and try it out. It takes a few minutes to deploy, and then you can really run these same performance tests yourself and see how much performance benefit you get.
Right. Start to test it out yourself. Okay, cool. So go to Azure.com, test it out. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you to Daniel for getting us through the Azure Front Door stuff. Really interesting things in the app migration path. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks.